trace orders with each name written next to them. One of those nodes is chosen by the user to be the local center, shown on the map with an home icon. So all the data flow and monitoring are based on that one. The sidebar shows us some info about the local center as the center name here on the top, the archive role in Policy, the active data sources, and the connected DHAs. DAFNE installation comes with 7 pre-configured centers. This first one, this. And for this demo, we added some test nodes. So here is my local center, an external accessory center, a test DAS node here, of which we will talk later, 3 collab centers, and here Happy Hub and SciHub. So the user can access the center configuration page using the menu on the top. And here it is possible to choose which center is configured as local. In this case, here you see that this is the local one. You can add other centers, this button, or delete them and eventually change that their representative color. So each center has a color. You can edit it simply from here and choose one color. The next menu item here brings us to the service configuration page, in which we can edit the service to our needs. The services here are meant to be the real DOS instances with their associated URLs, credential, and service type. The local center can be configured as a single instance, or in case of distributed DOS, with one front-end service and one or more backend services. One of the new features of this DAFNE version is the partial support for intelligent synchronizers that are introduced in DOS version greater than 3.1. So to demonstrate this, we have configured, in addition to our front-end instance, one backend instance with an old DOS version and another backend instance with DOS version 3.1.4. These 3 services are connected to the local center. Another new feature of this DAFNE version is the initial support for the CSC services, like DAS, PRIP, and LTA. So just for demonstration purpose, we have installed a test DAS node here and configured its relative service here. We'll see it working later in the completeness page. Let's go back to the home page. As we introduce the compatibility with the intelligent synchronizers, we have configured one with 2 sources that are now already started, and you can see the active sources here in the sidebar. If we click on the Show on Map button, 2 nice arcs appear, colored with a source color to better visualize the retrieved data flow direction. We can enter now the synchronizer page here that shows all the synchronizers configured in the local backend instances. In this case, we have configured 3 synchronizers, taking products from the 3 collab nodes. The user in this page can directly start and stop the synchronizer, or modify and delete them as needed. And we are going to start them right now, clicking on the play buttons. Then we can go back to the home page to check the situation. And we can see the just started synchronizer here in the sidebar. Again, we can see the relevant arc on the maps, each one with its representative color. One thing to note here is that we added a useful hovering feature that shows for every synchronizer in this frame info about the configured filters. In the same way, useful info are shown also in the archive rolling actions. So if we hover, we see some more info. I would like to show you also the map, how the map is filled when there are external DOs copying products from our front-end catalog. And to do so, I will temporarily change the service related on my accessory instance to make it related to another external center. For my convenience, I start this related sync here. Sorry. And then I will configure the service. So this is my accessory service. I'll change the center related to, and now it acts like an external center. As we can see now, there is one connected DHAs, which is copying product from our local front-end catalog. And clicking on this button, the relative arc is shown, now colored with the local center color, which is now the data source. This, again, helps the user to figure out the direction of the data flow. Before going on, I configure the external instance service back to the first setup. Here we are. Now we can go on looking at the other new features about the metrics, starting from the completeness page. In this page, we can check the number of products in our local front-end catalog compared to the other configured centers, based on the creation date. We added in the filter section the possibility to use the configured synchronizer filter to calculate the completeness, alongside the possibility to fill the filter manually. Please bear in mind that since DAS or other CSC services don't support synchronizers, they will be taken into consideration only when a manual filter is filled. Indeed, if we submit a manually entered filter, as for example this, okay, we'll see that data relative to our DAS center will be correctly retrieved. It will take just some seconds. Some more seconds. Here we are. So this is our test DAS configured, and this is the data relevant to the DAS. You can see them, the same numbers, also on the table here in the lower part. Now, if we want to calculate the completeness of our synchronizer filter, we will check this using filter checkbox. And you can see that the filter parameters changes. Now we can choose the service type to which the synchronizer we want to search belong. So for example, we search for only backend synchronizers. And we see the sync here. For example, we can also search for all the synchronizers. And you can tell the origin here by the titles. These are all the backend synchronizers. For example, we choose this. We choose the relative start and stop dates. Let's, for example, take these dates. And it takes several seconds, depending on the connection. Of course, here the filter of this sync is shown, and of course it can be a long string. So again, if we hover on it, we can see the whole string in its entirety. As I told you before, in this case, DAS data are not taken into consideration. And to underline this, all CSC services are grayed out like this, with the not available acronym next to it. here and also in the table. As I told you, the same data are shown both in the chart and in the lower table. And in the table, in all the tables you see, you can always export data as a CSV file, and which name is reported in the title of the file. The name of the sink is reported in this case here, sorry, and the start and stop dates. Then, if you remember, we can always choose different kind of charts to see our data. So you can choose which is useful for you. Going on, another new feature which was requested by some user and that is now present both in the service availability and in the publication latency is the weekly aggregation of the data. When we go into the service availability page, for example, which display the weekly or daily average of the local center front end or single instance availability, we see now a weekly aggregation checkbox. So normally, if it is unchecked, we can look for the availability over a period of 31 days inside a 90 days window, going back from the today date. The local center service availability is checked every 10 minutes by default, and a daily average is reported here for every day. Here you can see the average of the whole period, which you can see also displayed here by this dashed blue line. I don't know if you can see it. Then if we check the weekly aggregation box, the default start and stop date will be automatically set to the whole period, the whole 90 days period, and clicking the filter button, the chart changes, and now the bars in the chart will represent every week in this period. Again, the table will change accordingly. As we were on one bar, this will be highlighted, and its week average value will be visible. Clicking on this bar, the data shown will change to that week, as if we did a daily search with that week start and stop dates. You see them, and you see the dates here. A new back to weekly button appears here on the right to go back to the previously weekly search. So we can go back and forth to make our search much simpler. For example, we choose this week, we see it, we can go back, choose another week, and so on. When in the weekly aggregation view, the average here is the average of the whole period again, and the dashed lines follow this number. The same behavior will be found, in the publication latency page. In this page, it will display the weekly or daily average of the time difference between the local center products creation date and the related synchronized data source products creation date. So also here you'll find the same weekly aggregation checkbox. And as an example, we can perform the daily search. For example, we choose this for all the period. Sorry. And in this search, every bar in the chart represents one day. I'm sorry for the data here. It's just a test environment, so data is not so nice. We can perform always the same, a weekly aggregation search. And you see that every bar here represents a week again. In the weekly aggregation search, you can click on a week. The search changes to that week start and stop dates. And furthermore, the user can click on a daily bar to see the details of that day. In this case, the publication latency is recorded every 10 minutes, but the default is every hour. You can change this. And all of those recordings are represented here as different bars. In this chart, you can choose to see them as a line chart, this way. I'll go back to the bar chart. The go back button changes accordingly to go back to the previous search. Was it a weekly or a daily search? So where we are, when we are in the detail page, as we see here, the button is back to daily. When we are in the daily search, the button led us back to the weekly search. Again, I'm sorry if you see a lot of empty readings here, but it's just because that's a test environment. I think that's all, so I leave the floor to Elisabetta.
Many thanks, Davide. I don't know if user have some question. No. Has any of you already installed DAFNE? Just for curiosity. I know that some of you have planned to do it for the next period, but I don't know if there is someone that already got the chance to play a bit with DAFNE.
Oh, hi, this is Zdeněk. If it's indeed time to ask questions, I have a few.
Okay.
I wanted to try to play with DAFNE, but I didn't think I was already able to get access. So that's my first question. Can we already get access?
Okay, sure. This last release is present on an ADR on Jira, the 22 ADR, with the link to the repository to download it. So I don't know if you try from to access by this link.
Okay, so I will have a look at that.
Okay, many thanks. If you encounter some problems to access the repository or something else, please let me know also via email that I can provide you all the support needed.
Okay, we will have a look, and I assume some kind of documentation concerning configuring the service and specifically the data app instances so that they release this kind of information into DAFNE. It's there, right?
Sorry, you are asking if there are some recommendation for the configuration?
If there is sufficiently documented configuration for our data hubs, so that the information can indeed appear in DAFNE.
Yes, indeed. There is already present in Jira. There is the SAM, the user manual, basically, where all the details for configuring center services, the data app nodes are explained. But again, if something is not completely clear, do not hesitate to write to me that I can explain better or in more detail. In any case, the document, in my opinion, is very detailed.
Okay, we will have a look. Thank you.
You're welcome.
One more thing, if I may, as a matter of interest, how does DAFNE collect the information? Because so far all the information was basically collected by scraping the logs, so it's no longer the case, right? There is some additional code in Data Hub.
Davide can correct me if I'm wrong, but for what concerns the completeness, DAFNE implement the interface, the compatibility with the new SCSC API that use DAS to expose data. So query are performed by DAFNE to DAS with the expected syntax, let's say, and the results are retrieved. Davide, if you want to add something.
Yes, that's correct.
I don't know if I answered to your question.
At this moment, yes, it does. Thank you.
Okay. Any other question? Okay, in any case, I also available offline for any doubt or questions. I'm happy to know that some of you is interested in the platform and have in plan to start to play with it. And we are also available to collect your feedback or your future suggestion to add feature that you can consider useful. So any suggestion, feedback is welcome. If there aren't other questions, I think that from our side it's all. So many thanks for participating to the meeting. I hope it is interested for you. And I just remember that in the next week, also the demonstration for the last version of the transformation framework will be planned. So you will receive soon the proper invitation, let's say.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Many thanks
Thank
to
you,
all.
Elizabeth.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Take care.
Thank you, Mai.
Thanks.
Bye bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thanks, Davide. Bye.